We are live. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. I am super excited to have on today Soheil Var. What is up, brother?
Jeff, doing good out here in Dubai. How are you doing, brother?
This is gonna be. I'm doing amazing, man. This is gonna be a fun conversation. How we first met is I was actually on 8 Billion Gifts podcast hosted by Soheil, almost probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and then slowly his journey reversed and started going towards this dream of his of being a pro footballer, and it's been I just been following his course over the last 2 years, and I'm just in awe of it all. How he's built his brand, how he's built himself, how he signed a pro contract. One of the most amazing, inspiring stories for any young athlete trying to follow their dreams. So I needed to have you on my podcast. I'm excited to hear your story. Let's start off by Soheil as a kid. Where did your love for football start? And for all the North Americans, I'm talking about football, soccer, football, European football. So where did your love for football start?
So love for football started actually back home, which for me is Vienna, Austria. So I was born in Vienna, Austria, which a lot of people don't know because I grew up in Canada, Ottawa.
Yeah.
But it started in Austria, and football there is big. Like everybody breathes football, plays football. It's right by Germany, European country, of course. So I started at around maybe 7, 8. I started kicking a ball. At 9, I had my first year of playing club football. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I fell in love with the game. What happened right after that, though, is I broke my leg. So it was crazy because I got into football.
Yeah.
I started playing it for fun, had that 1 year of club, and then I broke my leg. So I couldn't play for like 2, 3 years.
So now that takes you on to 11 years old.
Yeah. So right when I broke my leg, we decided to make the move to Ottawa, Canada. So that's when my family moved. I was on the plane with the broken leg. We had the seat out in front of us. We had to book it to like kind of bring it down so I could be on the plane. And I remember coming crutches first day of school, didn't speak any English. And the kid in front of me in the line, he kind of turned around and he said, "Hey, how are you?" And I didn't know what to say. And I kind of just turned around. I was super shy. I didn't know English and didn't say anything. So for me, it was super hard. I came to Canada, broken leg, couldn't play football, which was my favorite sport. Didn't have any friends, left all my friends behind. Didn't speak English, and kind of needed to come and try and integrate into a new culture. So the first 2, 3 years were really hard. But yeah, around 11, 12 was like when I started making that recovery back to healing my leg and playing again.
So what was your first experience playing in Ottawa? For what team? And do you remember your coaches and all that at that time?
Yeah, I do. So my first experience was around 13. I played recreational soccer, which is
House
you're
league.
basically playing house league. You're playing like once a week.
Yeah.
You get like a jersey where you have a national team flag, and I think we practiced once a week as well. So it was very low level, but that was my first experience. Super just for fun. Like, parents would just put their kids in there to have that social activity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did that for about a year or two before finally moving up to the competitive level. I started
the rep level.
Rep level, yeah, which was very late. I was like 14 around that time when I first got
very, very late at that level.
Yeah, very late.
So to continue the journey from there, where do we take it from there?
Right. So the way I got into competitive was I was at school tryouts, just playing. Didn't really have an idea of like what competitive soccer was. Kid kind of picked me out and said, "Look, we're looking for one more player on our team. Do you want to come out?" So I went out. I tried to play with the team. And I remember my first experience with competitive, I went to the tryouts and nobody passed me the ball. Like literally nobody passed me the ball the whole session. I was super nervous. And then I just told my dad, I'm like, I don't want to do this competitive thing. And we didn't go to the second tryout. And that was it. So I just kept playing house league then for another season. Until then, I gave it another shot and finally made what was at the time the lowest level of competitive soccer. It was called L5 competitive at West Ottawa Soccer Club. And that was right when I got to high school. So I was playing competitive soccer. Now this is like 3 times a week we're training, so it's a bit better. We have games on the weekends. And then high school, I just did competitive soccer, tried to work my way up, but never really made it to the highest youth level. And then at the same time, I played high school soccer, and my high school was in tier two. So you have OFSA, you have
Yeah.
tier one,
Yeah.
and then you have tier two. There's like the super small schools with the very bad teams.
Yeah. So how did you get so good? Like, when was that click when it's like, I'm going to turn this? Because obviously at that point, I got close friends of ours that my best friend, for example, his three kids all play competitive, and they're all like his daughter's playing already on, she's 14, 15, she's already on the national team. Like they're at such a high level at 12, 13, 14, playing European clubs. They're even here. They're playing on his youngest son's playing on a Netherlands club here. Like they're playing at such high levels, and they're training like 6, 7 times a week at like 11, 12 years old. So
yeah,
when you're telling me your story and I see where you are now, I would automatically assume from 11, 12, 10, you're playing at a really high competitive level with amazing coaches. How did that switch? Like, what switched in your head to get to that? Like, this is my dream. This is what I want to do.
What switched was right when I got into high school.
Yeah.
I told myself I want to go pro. Like I really wanted to. I was a kid who I loved challenging myself.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a big passion for soccer, for football. So it was in high school where I'm like, I want to go pro. And I had a realization at the time that I was so behind, because there would be games where our competitive team is playing the next level up, and I could see that I was behind. So what really did it for me was kind of having that realization, but then I had to kind of execute on it. And what that looked like for me was a lot of early mornings. Like school would start early in the morning. I would wake up an hour even earlier, like 6:30 a.m. I would go to the field and train and just do dribbling. Like there was this one drill I always did. I called the zigzag drill. I would set cones up in a zigzag pattern, and I would just dribble around the cones. Because what I told my mind was, look, I missed out on the most important years of youth development. So tactically and like team wise, I'm already behind. I need to find a way to stand out and get ahead. And the way I could do that by training on my own was improving my dribbling. So if I could become very good on the ball, that's at least one thing I have on the football field where I can stand out. Because I didn't have the money to get a personal trainer. I didn't have the money to do any type of extra training. So it was just before school, I would go do dribbling. And then after school, I would do dribbling. And I remember even in the winter, like the winter was the worst because you wake up, Canada, there's no light.
Yeah.
And it's freezing cold. Yeah. But I would still go to the park near our house, train. And then right after high school ends, like the day ends, you have about like an hour of light before it gets really dark in Canada.
Yeah.
So I would go to the field and kind of maximize that hour of light before it got dark. And I compounded that over time. So like I would go every single day after school, and that compounding over weeks and months, I noticed like throughout high school, I really started to improve. So I think for me, that was like,
is that 1% mentality, right? Every day, 1% better, 1% better. And it's something that's, I think is very overrated with a lot of people, where you hear it a lot, and a lot of whatever is motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, they always talk about that 1% high in athletes. It's so bloody true. You have to do it. It's every single day you're trying to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And it compounds. It's like domino effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And if you're already so far behind the race, right? You started so late, now you have to go even harder. So for me, like all of high school, and then also in the last 3, 4, 5 years now since finishing high school, it was just extra work. How much extra work can I do? Lately, I've realized I need to be strategic with the training I do, so you don't overtrain too much, especially once you start playing at that elite level. But that's what helped me kind of catch up, is doing a lot of that extra training on my own.
I always say this, you get, when you look at an athlete, and I coached baseball for about 4 years. When you're looking at young athletes, and you look at a kid from 9 to about 14, 15, it's the most athletic, gifted kids that stand on top of the crop. And then from there on, it's the kids that work the hardest, the kids that have that mindset of just, I'm not going to give up, that slowly start passing them. And essentially it was what you did, right? It's just your mindset, just that relentless gift of just non-stopping is what got you to where you are. Let's now talk about, so when did you have in your set? So you set a goal for yourself. I think this is the funnest part of the whole story. You set a goal for yourself for 2 years. You gave yourself a 2-year window. Why did you give yourself a 2-year window? Is it because obviously you're at this point, you had the podcast, you're working, you're in university at this point. Where are you taking university?
So I first went to Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada.
Yeah.
And then I actually got cut from the soccer team after year one. So that's what made me move to University of Ottawa.
Yeah.
And then I tried universities and I just graduated in June.
Congratulations on that. So when you have that mindset, so okay, at that point you set yourself and you said, listen, I'm going to give myself that 2 year. It was a 2-year window, right? To make a pro team.
So I gave myself a 1-year window.
Originally,
I gave myself 365 days.
Yeah.
And so I didn't achieve it by the end of the 365 days. So that's when I decided one more year, and I added 365 more days, and that's this year right now, where I came to Dubai. I was in Germany first, actually. Then I came to Dubai, and after a lot of like setbacks and up and downs, finally was able to achieve that goal.
So your first year, when you told your parents, "This is my goal. I'm gonna dedicate full time to this," where was your mindset of your parents?
So my parents, Iranian background, Persian background, so very traditional parents.
Yeah.
Very big on education.
Yeah.
So it was difficult trying to sell the football thing and also the content creation thing.
Yeah.
But for me, what really helped was also balancing it with the school. So I was always one who I always got good grades. And it wasn't just I got good grades, but I put in a lot of effort to get those grades. So just making sure I'm getting good grades, making sure I'm keeping up with my studies, and then at the same time doing university full time and progressing to completing my degree, I think made that conversation a lot easier. So for them, it was like, okay, as long as you're doing university and we see you're making progress towards getting that degree, then we're okay with you doing whatever else it is that you want to do.
Okay, so year one, let's have a breakdown of the first year. So the first year, and we'll talk about the content creation in a second. So the first year, you set your goals. Did you have it all mapped out, like physically? This is the training I'm going to do. This is the mental aspect I'm going to do. Did you have everything mapped out and tryout dates and all that stuff? Did you have it all mapped out, or you just winged it all the way through?
No, I did not have it mapped out. And a little bit of context. So the reason I first decided to start documenting it so frequently, I did videos on TikTok every single day, was because I've been going at this since high school, 14, 15 years old, right? I had this dream in my mind, and up until 2 years ago, so I just turned 24. So up until around 22, a lot of people don't know this because I didn't document it back there, but I traveled like all across Ontario. I traveled to Austria twice. I went to Germany. I went to, where else did I go?
Is this for tryouts or for training?
For trials, yeah. So I tried, I tried so many places and I failed, and I kept failing, and I had some success, but I failed. I never was able to achieve the dream. And so for me, it was like, look, you've tried this for 5-6 years now, and I've thought about quitting so many times. I told myself, I'm gonna make the commitment. I'm gonna share this journey online with two reasons. One, it was I really wanted to inspire younger athletes and athletes around the world that it's not about where you are right now. It's about where you want to get to and how hard you're willing to work to get there. Okay, so that was my first goal. And then also share resources and tools along the way as I'm documenting things. But then my personal thing was like, I want to document this whole thing to not allow myself to give up anymore. Because I had so many years of
love that. Accountability.
So that's why I decided to do the frequent every single day. I'm going to document this and I'm going to put a timeline on it. So that's why I did the 365 days to sign a pro contract. And at the time, it was very difficult because we were in COVID, actually. So pandemic. I'm in Ottawa, Canada. Everything is locked down on day one. It's snowing outside, snow up to the knees. Sports facilities are closed. Domes are closed. I can't train. I can't go to the gym. I have a chronic groin injury. But I just told myself, I'm going to make the commitment, because if the commitment is made, I know the title of the movie. Now I just have to figure out the script. So now I just have to go and figure it out. And so I didn't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I knew what the goal was.
Yeah.
And year one just was a crazy roller coaster from Canada to Spain, a lot of up and downs. But yeah, that's kind of how it started, the whole 365 days.
I love the accountability aspect. There's something I talk about a lot. Something I've done from day one. As I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years, and I if I have a product idea or something like that, or an idea of a pocket, I'll tell everybody around me. I'll tell everybody I'm going to start it, because then it puts that pressure on me to complete it. So I love that aspect of it. So and docking your journey is inspiring a lot of people. But there's also that fear of failure. So now you're putting yourself in front of the world, and you have that risk of failing and not accomplishing it. And social media can be very mean. Social media can be very. I just had, like I said, I had Robbie Rowland on the podcast just prior to you, and last night I was just on, and this is a guy where he's playing independent pro ball. He's trying to make it back to the major leagues. And he had a couple of videos, and this guy's just like you, a brand master, and completely branded himself. And I went on some videos on YouTube last night, and I was just, because this podcast is releasing this week, and I saw a couple of videos where he showed live games, him pitching. They was recording, he was mic'd up, and the comments are horrible. Like, people ripping into this guy. Oh, you're never going to make it. You suck. And I was like, what the hell? This guy's putting his life out there for a dream. And it's like, other people don't want to see you succeed. It's hard to see, but that's just the mindset with social media, right? Everybody's behind a keyboard, and everybody has an opinion, right? How did you separate that? Because I'm sure it can't all be positive. There's always going to be some negativity to stuff. How did you separate that mindset? Because that can be hard, because you're still young.
When I first started, it was great. Everybody's cheering you on. You have that positive feedback. Then what happened was, towards the end of year one, when things weren't really working out, I started getting a lot of hate, a lot of judgment. People coming in telling me to give up. I'm not good enough. Go play 10th division in this country. So it was a lot of hate and a lot of judgment. And going into year two, everything actually got a lot worse, because I had this difficult moment come up where, at the start of year two, I was planning to go trial in a country, but then unfortunately I had a family health issue come up, so I couldn't go, and I needed to stick back for a couple more weeks just to make sure everything was going to be okay. And people didn't really understand that, and so it really just exponentially grew, the judgment and the hate. And it was difficult. Like, no human wants to sit in a pit of hate and judgment. For me, what really helped was I had to set up a system. That's what really did it. I had to set up a system to manage it. So number one, it's definitely a mindset. Kind of what you said is, like, people don't want to see you succeed. If they couldn't do it themselves, they want to find a reason to then tear you down so that they don't see you succeed. Because if they see you succeed, especially somebody started so late, then
it questions everything they did.
What was their excuse to not make it? You know what I mean? So they take that negativity and want to put it on you. So I think just being aware of that mentally and approaching that with gratitude and empathy, that's the mindset piece of things. And then more on the technical side of things, for me, I just set up a system where I post a video. I actually don't check the comments for a couple of days. So I'll post. Every couple of days, I'll be like, okay, now's the time to go see the feedback. And by the way, there's so many amazing people, so much positive comments.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that too. And thank you to everybody who's been so supportive. But also, that's kind of like a time where, if there's any negative comments, which at this point, kind of, having grown the page, there always is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, okay, now I'm going to tackle it for an hour, reply to all the comments, and then boom, now I'm focused back on football, on my life, on business, on content creation.
How do you reply to them? Because I'm gonna ask a couple of things. I'm gonna mention a few things. One,
Yeah.
I had another individual, exact same, no, different scenario, but very big on social media, and his mindset was he would reply by kindness, and he would throw people off, and instead of attacking back. So if somebody would be like, "You suck," and you're not going to make it, and he would reply, but he would just reply something simple like, "I appreciate your feedback. I'm really just trying my best, and that's all I could do is try my best. So I appreciate you at least following me." Like he would just reply with kindness, and then he goes, most of the people would come back with like, "Oh, I'm sorry," like, "Oh, I understand." Like it would be this a different reaction. You're almost throwing water on the fire. So how did
Yeah.
you reply to them? Did you like attack back? Were you like, "Oh, screw this guy"? Like how was your mindset at the beginning?
So at first, I just ignored them. Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't reply. And still to this day, there's just so many comments coming in. I don't physically have the time to reply to them all.
yeah,
But I actually did a lot of the times reply with kindness.
awesome.
And noticed is it was great because one, it kind of took the power away from what their comment is.
Exactly.
And two, it also gave them a nice kind of self check-in of like, what is it that I'm commenting? Like why am I,
Yeah.
being so negative? So it did that. So kindness, definitely I've used it and I continue using it, but I also hit them with comedy sometimes.
You
Like I
do?
remember there was a comment this one time, it was like, guys, next trial, 62nd division of Slovakia, right? So because I go on trials and stuff like that. So I replied to him and I said, actually already tried the 63rd division, didn't make it, but I'm going to try a different country, right? So just hitting the comments with some humor, and what are they going to reply to at that point?
Nothing.
So
Nothing. I love it. I love
yeah,
it. I love it.
with kindness, so you hit them with humor and it just takes the power away from them.
Did you ever watch? I binge watched this with my son and my wife a couple of weeks ago. Ted Lasso. Did you ever watch that?
I've watched a couple of clips on YouTube and I love the clips that I've seen.
Watch the show. As a footballer, you'll absolutely love it. And one thing Ted Lasso says, and I actually used it on one of my posts, is be a goldfish. And he actually says that to one of his players. And essentially, he says, and the guy's like, why be a goldfish? He goes, "Do you realize goldfish are the happiest animal in the world? They got a 10-second memory." And that's how he coaches, right? It's just being a goldfish. You just, when something happens bad or there's a bad reaction, just forget about it. Don't think about it. It's gone. After 10 seconds, it's past. And don't worry about it anymore. And having that mindset is so powerful. Something simple like that is so powerful, no matter what you do in life, right? Because there's always going to be negativity along the journey. Because, like I said, there's always going to be somebody that had that journey or had that dream and never put the effort into it, and then they don't want to see other people succeed in that. So I love that aspect. So let's talk about that. The second year, you're building all the social media, you're building this content. Now year two, it would, and be honest, would this been your last journey if you didn't make it, or you would have given it another shot? What was your mindset?
I would have gone a third year.
Yeah, of course you
Yeah.
would. If I love it.
So,
So okay, let's talk about this journey because it came right down to the wire. Um, it all started when you started this journey. Did you already know what team you're going to try out for, or how does that all work?
I didn't know what team I was going to trial for when I first started because in football, like once you get to the real high levels, it's really difficult to actually get on a team unless you have a strong network. So you need to have connections.
Yeah,
So definitely you're very skilled, but you
yeah,
also need to get yourself into that environment. So for me, I didn't have any of that, right? Parents didn't really have any connections in the space. I didn't have anything. So I needed to put myself out there. That's why towards the end of year one, like once I landed in Spain, I didn't have anything. I'd be making phone calls. The guy speaking in Spanish, I have like Google Translate open on the laptop and I'm trying to get a trial. Doesn't work out. The next day I'm walking to the club. So I had to walk to the club. Didn't find anybody except the guy who maintains the field. And he didn't speak any English. So I'm talking to him. I'm pulling out Google Translate. I'm trying to ask him to connect me with the coach. He walks me to the back of the club. There happened to be one staff member who then got me in touch with the coach. And I was supposed to get a trial, didn't work out. But point being is when you don't have a network, you really have to put yourself out there. And basically that's how a lot of the journey mapped out. Like year one, I need to create a lot of the opportunities myself. Year two, likewise, the club I'm with right now, I just had to try and send a lot of emails, try and send a lot of messages, and then get that opportunity for myself.
So is it essentially almost like, I'll give you an example, like a baseball kid, a pitcher or whatnot, he wants to get on a college D1 or D2 school. He'll find the coaches and literally just send videos and videos of themselves and try to get an open opportunity, right? A tryout. Is that kind of like what you did? Do you send videos and stuff of yourself training?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trainings, games, and then also just trying to go in person and just make that personal connection.
That's crazy for that level that you're still trying to do that. Did you ever, I mean, at that level, and I don't even think you have one. Do you have an agent?
So that's the thing. If you have an agent, right? A good agent, one, trustworthy, two, great network. So they can actually get you into that space.
Yes.
Or somebody in the football space, right? Even if it's not somebody who can get you connected. So for me, I didn't really have those connections, which is why I had to be very proactive and persevere and try and make those connections by myself. But the majority of people who are already like at that elite level, and that's why it helps when as a kid you're already playing at a high level and you're building up that resume, right? Agents are likely to actually listen to you when you send them an email. But for me, it was very difficult to try and make those connections.
So when you're making, do you sit there in front of the computer and make a list of like, these are the clubs that I have an opportunity to make, and you start breaking it down and like, okay, let me try 1, 2, because obviously the one you're on right now, I'm sure you didn't just pick one and try it. I'm assuming there was a whole bunch of them you sent out and you tried to get a connection to, right? So how many were there originally that you were trying to get onto?
So the best story I can tell for this is there was a time 3 years ago, and this is before I actually documented every single day, where I wanted to go on a trial in Germany. Yeah. And how Germany works is you have the first league, which is the Bundesliga.
Yeah, of course.
But then in the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. And I would say at the fifth division, you still actually have a very high level. You still have a very high level. The football in Germany is very similar to England, where it's a very in the lower leagues.
Yeah, it's Europe, the Europe mindset, right?
Exactly. So I went on Google and I had to find, obviously Division 1, 2, and 3 are out of the picture just because you kind of need a certain resume to be considered for that. So what I did is 4th, 5th, 6th, they're split into different regions. I had to find all the leagues. I researched the cities, went on the club websites, had to find the contacts. I got out a notebook, boom, email of this club, email of this club. I just days on days on days. I filled out a couple pages, and then days on days on days, I would send emails. And the difficult part is when you send out 50 emails and you open up the laptop the next day and there's nothing new in your inbox. So a lot of that happened, but for me, it was just, I got to keep going because all you need is one yes. Even if you get 100 no's, even if you get 500 no's, all you need is that one yes. So I knew if I kept going at it, I would get to that one yes.
I love it. I love that mindset. So when did you find out that you would have an opportunity for Dubai as a tryout? How many months before so you can start planning it?
Right. So in March, kind of rewinding to earlier, I went to Germany earlier this year. I was supposed to have a trial. It got delayed. I eventually went. So after a month, thank God, situation kind of allowed me to leave. Yeah. And went and I had that trial in Germany, which actually went well. But the issue was it was outside of the transfer window. So at the time, I couldn't sign until June.
What level was that team?
This was in the 4th division in Germany. I had a trial, which is a very, very high level, like some proper level. But the decision to make, it was either do I just stick around there and keep training, or do I explore Dubai? And Dubai for me was a place that I went to the previous December for an event. I had a couple days there, and I really liked the whole environment, the opportunity you had, both football-wise but then also a part of football, like social media and content creation.
Yeah.
And so I really took a risk. I decided to go to Dubai, sent out a bunch of messages. One club got back to me, Gulf United FC. I trained with them. They gave me a trial. I trained with them for 2 to 3 weeks. Went well, and that's how I got the invite to come back in for August. So it was the same club, brought me back in, but they brought me into the closed trials because they have open trials where they have like 600-700 players.
Yeah.
Then they trim it to 100 of invite only players. So that's kind of how I got in, part of the 100. Then they took 8 onto preseason to join the first team. So I made that cut out of 100 players. And then preseason week after
so
week,
competitive, huh?
so competitive. So competitive.
Wow. I'm just thinking of the number you just had there. At that level, that open trial is 700, and then it cuts down to 100, and then they cut it down to 8.
Exactly. Yeah.
So at this point, you're looking at the 8. This is in August already? Are you in August already in the preseason?
Yeah, this is in August. Yeah. Yeah.
How is your mindset? Because I mean, you show a whole bunch of videos, and they're very they're emotional, right? They're emotional because they're raw, they're honest. That there was a time when you didn't. It was the odds were you would have made it down to the last 2, and you were going against a guy that had a high level already, playing at a high level. Did they end up keeping that guy, or he was cut?
He was cut.
Wow. How was that emotional, the roller coaster the last week and a half, 2 weeks?
It was so difficult because, one, nobody really knows this because I had so much pressure social media wise that I didn't want to share this. The week before the trial, before I came to Dubai, my ankle got injured again. So my ankle got injured earlier in the year, and I was out for like 2-3 weeks, which was really disappointing for like the whole journey, right? And I was so excited for August. I trained so hard for this, and I'm like, look, people have been supporting me for so long. This is going to be the time where it happens. And a week before, my ankle got injured to the point where I would go to the field, I would try and do a dynamic warm up, and I would have pain. So I was super nervous and like worried. And part of me, I'm not going to lie, was like, next week when I fly out to Dubai, I'm going to be on the field. I'm going to have pain. It's not going to work out. It's done. But the more proactive side of me was like, okay, train your mind, prime your mind for success. You're going to do the rehab, play your cards right. It's going to work out. So I already had all that pressure. I came in week 1, my ankle kept hurting, but it was very manageable. So I played my cards the right way. I didn't really share that my ankle was still hurting. I just shared that I came to Dubai. I'm on trial. I made it past that first week. I was selected as the 8. And then every single week went on. So when it got to the point where it was between me and a championship level player, which is insanely high level in football.
Yeah.
Difficult. It was difficult because you've already been through so much. Now you've made it to this final stage where it's between you and another player.
You could taste it.
And like, that's just so much to take on personally, but also knowing that I was sharing it with hundreds of thousands of people. There was so much pressure. So yeah, it was difficult. It was a very difficult week, that final one.
Now, nothing to take away from your talent. Do you feel that everything you've built, social media, helped get you to where you are? Like having that brand, having a team taking you on with that brand, it adds value to the team as well. Does that help at all? And this is just for other individuals trying to make it up a rank of a certain sport.
Yeah, definitely helps overall. What I will say is, like, I think the way it helps the most is, one, you're building a brand for yourself. So there's a lot of opportunities where like you have brand deals. So it helps with like funding along your journey.
Yeah.
You get trips. What really helped me was building connections and building a network. And I will say, like, look, I didn't have much of a network. By sharing my journey, I started to connect with some amazing people and I built my network. And me building this network is definitely the reason why I eventually got myself this trial opportunity. Was it a lot of hard work and perseverance? Yes, of course. But the network aspect really helped too. So that's something that came with the social media stuff. Accountability, that was huge. And in terms of like the club, so it's great that you asked this because we had this conversation too in a meeting. They told me like, look, We know you have a presence, and that's fantastic. But for us, we don't really care about that. Everything comes down to football. The
Yeah.
club is based on merit. So football is going to be first. Like you getting in or not depends on your performance on the field. Once you're in, right? Once you're in, is there additional value to you having such a big presence, having such a big football community? 100%. And then away from the pitch, there's ways that, you know, there's different opportunities that could come out of that. So that's what I would also say to like any athlete who's like currently going on their journey of trying to make it to a higher level, whether that's pro, semi-pro, college, university, higher level of competitive, is give content creation a try. At least give it a try. See if it's something you like. If it's something you don't like, don't do it. But if it's something you like, give it a go. Every couple of days, post a video, document your journey, whether it's training, your mindset, nutrition, and you'll be very surprised as to how quickly you can build up a strong network, strong connections. You can build up to a point where you get brand deals. So that helps with funding along your dream, right? You need money to be able to fund your dream. And also just that whole motivational aspect and the accountability of now you have something bigger than yourself. Now you have people tuning into your journey. So you have the opportunity to impact and inspire so many other people.
So let's talk about that brand deals. I think it's. Did you physically or like did you go out and reach out to these people? Did they reach out to you? Like how did this all work?
Yeah, so a lot of behind the scenes of me, like same thing I would
Hustle.
do for clubs is the same thing I would do for brand deals. Like I would be emailing these companies like a 1% success rate. But it's now gotten to a point where I built up to a certain level where they come to me, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But at the start, you definitely need to be very proactive with sending those emails and making those connections yourself.
Did you have them in your at the beginning? Was it more just product placement? Is it more just product for yourself to train? How did it become? When did it become financially rewarding?
Yeah, so at first it's going to be a product exchange. So a company will send you something for free. Hey, you put it into a video. That's kind of the value exchange.
Yeah.
And then when you start growing and you have bigger numbers, that's when the brand deals will come and say, hey, look, we'll pay you a couple hundred for this. Hey, look, we'll pay you a couple thousand for this.
Yeah.
And for me, to be honest, like that transition is very recent. So I didn't go into the media space with, yo, I need brand deals ASAP.
Yeah.
I was very disciplined with my finances growing up. I put a lot into my savings. I got a lot of scholarships going to university.
Yeah.
So a lot of the beginning of the journey, honestly, a lot of the journey was me just being financially disciplined and using my savings. But it's now gotten to a point where I also have a financial opportunity through brand deals, which is really cool because whenever you do something through your personal brand, it sticks with you for the rest of your life
100%.
and it compounds. So it's been recent, that transition.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Now, what tier are you playing at right now that you have your pro contract?
So right now, UAE second division, and my club just got promoted actually. So our goal is to do a back-to-back promotion. So we are 4 games in. Unfortunately, we lost the last game, but we're on 2 wins and 1 draw.
Okay.
So we are 4th right now. We need top 2 to be able to move up. And the whole setup is really cool because our coach is Stephen Taylor, who is a Newcastle United legend. So this guy played in the Premier League against the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, like some big names.
Yeah.
So he's at work. He's got huge ambitions with the club. The whole coaching staff is awesome as well. And yeah, our goal is just to
So you're in a tier 2. How does that work for somebody that doesn't understand? So you're looking at you got obviously your Premier Leagues and all that stuff like that. So tier 2, the move up to tier 1, where would that stand when you're looking at a club level, a tier 1? Where would that stand compared to a Premier League or something like that? Where does that stand?
Yeah, so in the Premier League, it's like in England, you have the Premier League, then you have the Championship, then you have League 1, League 2, and then it keeps going down.
Yes.
In the UK, you have what's called the UAE Pro. That's the highest.
Okay.
Then you have UAE First Division, UAE Second Division, UAE Third Division, and then you have that tier system in almost every single country.
Yeah.
So how we would compare,
you're pretty up there. You're pretty up there, huh?
Yeah, getting really close to that top.
Wow.
So it's difficult to say, but Premier League obviously is the top league in the world.
Of course, yeah.
If you had the best teams in the UAE Pro playing against the Premier League team, I would say the best Premier League teams would probably easily beat them.
Yeah.
But if you look more of the lower table of the Premier League and have those teams play against maybe the top three in the UAE Pro League, I think there's some competition there. So obviously you got England, right, the top league, but I think the UAE is developing and there's a lot of talent here. It's just they have a lot of interesting rules where they have to have a certain amount of local players on the team. So they kind of like, it's difficult for foreigners to come in. And so the talent pool isn't as high as compared to Europe. But you can't compare like Middle East and Europe. Europe's on a
different level. But I'm sure there's a lot of, I mean, when you're looking at countries like Dubai and stuff like that, there's a lot of financial backing, I'm sure, behind whoever owns these clubs. So I'm sure the training and the coaching, like you said, there's certain levels of even just even the stadiums and all that. There's probably certain levels of just you guys are playing at you're set very, very well because obviously there's a big financial backing. How does that work out? Like, give me an understanding. You don't have to talk about your finances, but give me an understanding of from, like you said, tier 2, bumping up to tier 1 to pro, like financially. Give me an average of what a player at that level will make.
Yeah. So if you're playing in the highest league, like the UAE Pro, if you're on the better teams in that league, you could be, and you're a foreigner, especially, you're making like millions every single year. So that's why you have like Brazilians coming to play in Dubai. They just signed Pjanic from Barcelona.
Yeah.
Clubs in the world. He just went to play in that league. So they're making millions. Now, if you're on, I guess, more of the average clubs in that top league, you're probably making, and I don't know this info exact, this is kind of from what I've heard, probably anywhere from 100K to maybe a couple 100K. So it's still
decent
income.
Yeah.
Then we drop down to the UAE First Division and the UAE Second Division. You're going to go anywhere from not being paid to a couple hundred a month to a couple thousand a month. So
such a big difference, huh?
Very big difference. Yeah. And you'll find that actually in a lot of leagues around the world where that first top league, you have a lot of financial opportunity, but then as soon as you drop, there's a huge gap.
That is, yeah. So you guys, your goal is obviously to get, I mean, the team's hoping to bump up to tier 1, and then eventually the goal is to go to the pro.
Yeah, that's the
and when you guys talk about it, is there a window of like 2 years, 3 years? Like what do you guys give yourself a window wise?
Well, this year we want that promotion. So if we get that promotion, we'll be up one league, and then we're literally like right
next
below
to it.
that highest level. So I guess 2-year timeline.
Exciting. So your positioning playing wise, like how does that work now? Like are you off the bench? Are you play as a starter? Like how does that work position wise for yourself right now?
Yeah, so obviously coming into the team, pretty much the last signing in the way of me and that other player. So I came in as the second right back at the time. That's kind of what the coaches were looking like. And then what happened was we're 4 games in. First 2 games, I made the 18. So we have like 27, 28 players. 18 make the roster.
Yeah.
So I made the 18. Great. Didn't come off the bench the first 2 games. But in the 3rd game, I actually got my first start. So I made my debut. I started that game and we won 3-0. So that was a fantastic result. And then after that weekend on the Wednesday, we played against Saudi Arabia U23 national team, just an exhibition. Again, just because the club has such a big network, they're able to get us those games.
Yeah.
And in the game, I injured my ankle. So I'm out now for about a week and a half, which is why I missed last game. We lost 2-0. And this weekend, I will likely miss. But I'm hoping to be back again for next weekend. And I think the process for me is going to be like going from that bench to integrating into the roster
lineup. Yeah.
Long season. And this year, I'm really focused on the team. Like I really want the team to succeed. So I'm going to do whatever individually to make that happen and make sure we get the promotion this year, because that would be huge back to back.
That is amazing. So let's talk about content creation. how did you learn it? How did you really start really toning in and focusing on it? What platforms, if you're talking to a young athlete that's trying to dock their journey, just like you did, what platforms would you recommend and how would you recommend them to start and what do they need? Like, just give me an understanding of what you've learned, because it's so, when you're looking at somebody at a next level of something, you could either get them to mentor you or indirectly mentor you. And indirectly mentor you, I mean, is just listening or learning or watching or hearing what they're saying and then implementing that into what they do in their own strategy. What recommendations would you give to a young athlete or anybody that's trying to get to another level at any aspect in their life, right?
I would say this is very important to mention. All you need is a phone. I would
Yeah.
pick up, but this is on the phone right now. So all you need is a phone. So don't let the whole like, I need a DSLR, I need a nice camera to stop you. So I'm telling you right now, all you need is a phone. 99% of my content is being recorded with a phone. So
Yeah.
if you have a phone, which like most people have,
Yeah.
you can start content creation journey. Now, what I would do is I would start with TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
Start by posting one video every single day. Give it a shot. If it's too much for you, try one every second day. But let's just stick to that one a day for now. So do one video a day and don't overcomplicate things too much. Think a little bit more about documenting what you're already doing opposed to creating a video. So you're probably already, as an athlete, you have training, you have your recovery, you have your thoughts, your mindset, you have your diet, you have your social aspect, you have your games. If you're at training, if you're training alone, if you're training with a partner, just get out the camera, start recording a couple of clips, put it up. Don't overthink it. Just make an edit, put it up, and then be consistent with the one a day, because frequency is super, super important with content creation. Quality is very important too, but quality comes from doing. And that's why I'm big on like, you have to every single day, if you can, do it every single day, because you'll get quicker to the point of like understanding what works and what doesn't work. And also, what I'll say is spend a couple minutes every single day actually going through the platform, not as a consumer, right? Because 99% of people, like, they'll just go through, be wasting their time. Be intentional with that time, right? You can do that too if you want, but block out some time, go through the For You page, go through Instagram Reels, take some notes on what works, what doesn't work. And then when you're out at the court, when you're out at the field, at the rink, try and implement those things, film a video, but get it out. Because by doing, you actually get better. So I think that's a fantastic starting point. I can give some tips on like what engaging content creation works. But in terms of like starting, I would say that's all you need is you need a phone. You need to film stuff that you're already doing, just document it and post once a day.
Are you a believer in just showing what you're doing, or do you like the aspect of talking to a camera, like actually, like pretty much letting the audience know the true side of you, what your struggles are, getting to know you? Is that vulnerability a good thing or a bad thing at the beginning?
I think it's a good thing. For
Okay.
me, it's a lot because it's helped me grow
Yeah.
as an individual, right? And it's also allowed me to have a more personal connection to my audience. And I think that's why also with my stuff, like the engagement is so high. The shares, the people that really tune into my content is because I'm willing to be vulnerable. And when things go wrong, I'll be honest with you and I'll be very authentic and I'll tell you like, yo, I tried this and I failed and it didn't work out. And right now I don't feel the best. But you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to go at it again. And I think most people are scared to do that because of the judgment that might
Yeah.
roll in.
Yeah.
But you'll be surprised by how vulnerability can be a fantastic gateway to deepening your connection with others and also getting a lot of positive support. Because to achieve anything big in life, you need support and you need help.
Yeah.
And so, good thing.
When you got that contract, who was the first person you called? Your parents?
No, And it's an interesting one because of that whole dynamic that, because of the whole dynamic that so traditional, focused on education. For me, I think I've been going through this journey in the last year and a bit with my very close friend, my brother Daniel, who's here living with me, and he's helped me with a lot of the videos. So definitely that was the first moment that I've shared.
So you had one of your buddies come with you to this journey.
Yeah, so it's been like an 8-year journey of me trying to make it happen.
Yeah,
and like 5-6 years, obviously alone, grinding, but in the last year and a bit, ever since I made that jump to Spain, which was last summer, it was very funny. This is a high school friend, which is super cool too.
Yeah.
I told him like, "Oh, I'm going to Spain. I know you currently have this 9 to 5 job. You've been telling me you're unhappy. Yeah, I know you have a creative side inside of you." He's into filming. He's into photography. Come with me for just a month. Come with me for a month. Let's give it a shot and let's see what happens. And he came with me for a month.
Yeah.
And at the month, he said, "I love Spain. I love this whole space. Let's extend this. How can we extend this?" And ever since then, we've had a couple weeks where he goes and does his own thing. But ever since then, we've been together. So I'm very grateful of him. And it's also fantastic to kind of go through this journey having somebody else so close to you.
That is, yeah, I had no clue. And it's funny that I actually, for some reason, a video popped up and I saw you doing a podcast with another buddy of yours. And you said it was a high school buddy. So I'm assuming it's him.
That's him. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So you have now created a marketing company. I'm assuming he's your partner. I'll just put one on one together. How did that all start? Give me an understanding. What's the name of the company? How did that all start? And now you said you have some big clients and stuff like that, which is pretty amazing. How did that all start? Was it because your social media, they reached out to you? Did you how did that all connections begin?
So everything definitely started through already having the personal brand and creating content, because people were able to, one, we understood the skill of engaging content creation.
Yeah.
And then two, kind of saw that, wow, you're getting some great numbers and some great engagement. We'd love for you to do this for us. But to be completely honest, how it really started was in Spain. Obviously, I'm on the grind. I'm playing at that time, signed in the 6th division, not really making money.
Yeah.
Creation, I told you at the start, not really getting any brand deals.
Yeah.
So we need a way to make money. So for us, we loved content and we thought, okay, look, we're doing the personal brand, but what if we took our skill set and offered it to different clients? So that's kind of how it started. In Spain, we had 1-2 clients, build up from there. Then we had to move to Dubai. We came here. And just recently, it's been amazing. Like I told you, we got Harley Davidson on board. And we just create content, build up their social media pages. And what's really unique is that we really understand the skill of engaging content creation. I mean, for Harley Davidson, 0 paid ads, all organic. In the last 2 months, we went from 0 to 100K followers on TikTok. And they've gotten a lot of traffic into their dealership here in Dubai. So they're extremely happy with things. And that's how it started with the whole media marketing thing.
So when you're putting a company together, okay, so I've been an entrepreneur now for 27 years. So when you're putting a company together, there is a lot of work and effort putting into a brand. How did you know where to start? Are you corporations, setting up things, doing taxes, having a partnership? Is it just you're winging it as you go and learning on the process? Did you have any mentors? Did you have anybody teach you, show you? Because you're still young, you're still quite young, and you obviously have your football, which is what you're focused on right now. Where did you get that mindset of just let's start a business and all this? And why I'm asking is this: I've said this a million times on my podcast. I find the top athletes in the world, or people that are really, really dedicated to being an athlete, are natural entrepreneurs, because they have the hustle, the drive, that mindset, that endless pursuit, that relentless mindset of just, I got to do what I got to do to get there. And no matter what happens, I got to figure it a way. Whether I got to pivot or not, I got to figure it a way. And obviously, when I'm seeing what you've done as an athlete, that just kind of goes hand in hand with being an entrepreneur. where did you have that mindset, or when did that turn around and be like, okay, this is what I got to do. Like, let's figure this out and get a business going with it.
The biggest thing that helped me, this is both on the self-development and mindset side of things, but then also on the business side, is people like you and this whole space of podcasting and sharing advice. So I would listen to a lot of Ed Milet, Tony Robbins, Tom Bilyeu, Lewis Howes, Grant Cardone, like the list goes on. So that's a lot of how I got my kind of information on it gave me guidance, it gave me mentorship on how to do things. And that's also what got me to kind of want to start a business. But to what you brought up earlier, like, did you wing it or are you winging it? Like, I mean, you know this so much better than I do. Like the business space, being an entrepreneur, it's so crazy. There's so many different variables. You have to wing it. Like
Yeah.
there's you can get mentorship and you should, and you need that support and you need the knowledge. But if you want to go on and do anything big, anything crazy, anything new, you're stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into discomfort. And a requirement for that is winging it. So we're still in the process of learning so much. We're making mistakes. We're in the process of setting things up. Now we want to start like getting somebody else on board, getting a second person on board to like outsource certain tasks. So it's a lot of figuring things out. But for me, a big help has been getting the information from a platform like yourself, from some of these other people I listen to.
Indirect mentoring.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have this going on now. We're building this on. I seen something that you did right now recently, and I'm assuming this is yours as well. Is a platform for other footballers, like players, to join the platform. Are you?
Yeah.
Have you just recently started that?
Yeah, just recently.
Was there nothing like this on the market already? And why I'm asking is when you look at, we come from the MMA world, which is the martial art world. There's websites like SureDog and stuff that have a platform for athletes to put their records, put their information, put their stuff, so they can be found by leagues, and it's just like a massive database. I'm assuming there is one already for footballers, isn't there not?
Yeah. So with this community, my goal is to create like a community of football players around the world who all come together, and we create this brotherhood where like we really get to know each other, we really support each other. So opposed to it being like this kind of objective database that then scouts and people can, it's a little bit more like personalized. And the goal really is to create this like tight-knit community, like this brotherhood where we help each other out with connections, with advice. I've made a fantastic list of resources that people have access to on there too. And so to your question of like, is there anything like that in the space? I'm not aware of it in the football space, kind of with more of that personal touch, just focus on their aspect of things. But there definitely are things where you kind of have that database of your statistics and scouts on there.
So you're eventually going to add is your goal to eventually have clubs on there to put their open tryouts and stuff like that? Like you're going to be connecting with clubs. Like I'm trying to get the visual of the long term, and then eventually get sponsors on. Like you're trying to build this as almost like a little, kind of like a little hive, a little bee nest that's just going to keep growing and expanding as you start building, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So at the start, very small, but then over time, expand and try and pull in those bigger connections of now there's football clubs on board, and now there's big agents on board and scouts on board. So it's going to be a process over time, but that is the end vision.
Are you going to eventually have a platform extended to fans to actually interact with athletes?
Yes.
Okay, I love it. I love it. You're smart, buddy. It's smart. I'm as an entrepreneur, my mind's just, as you're saying this, my mind's spinning of how many ideas I could see off this thing. So I love it. I love it. And how long? Is it officially launched already?
So it's in the process right now, kind of like talking with a couple different individuals who want to get on board. Yeah. And then in the next 2 weeks, we're going to launch it and start like the whole Zoom calls every couple of days, have our group chat going on. We're going to be sharing stuff with each other, have that list of resources available. So very soon, like it's in the process right now.
So you're already going to, as the athletes come on, they're going to be able to interact with each other with Zoom and all that stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You don't think that'll be hard as a challenge as you start growing numbers?
Well, for now, it's going to be very like tight knit. So we
Yeah.
also have like a Discord group chat where we're going to kind of have everybody there active every single day. And then over time, when it really expands, that's when I'll need to incorporate a different platform, I guess, because
Yeah.
with Zoom, you're limited with
Yeah,
users and
yeah.
stuff like that.
And will there be any time that monetization comes up along with like will you have a membership base? Is this something in your mindset over the long haul?
Yeah, so right now there is a membership, but it's like a very reasonable
Yeah.
price. I really like I've been working really hard on this and I've put so much value in there. But over time, I definitely do want to like expand it to not just kind of doing a membership, but also different opportunities within the community, like showcases,
Yeah.
combines,
Yeah.
maybe like things like that. But
Yeah.
that's more of like stage two, stage three down the line.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it how your mind's working. How I mentioned your parents. How's your mindset with your parents now that you finally made it? How's their relationship? Are they still like come back to school, come back and get a job? Like how's their mindset?
Well, my dad's more chill nowadays. My mom definitely wants me to like make that next step of whether it's masters or that next
Yeah.
step in academics. But I think her seeing how hard I work and her now seeing some of the things that have, grown from all the effort I put in the
Yeah.
last year or 2 years, she's more okay with what I'm doing.
Have you ever
Um,
sat down with them and really just like almost like had an interview situation where it's like, hey, this is the marketing aspect, the branding aspect, this is the possibilities. Like I could be building a company, I could be an entrepreneur. Have you ever sat down with them and tried to explain this all to them? Because
I
I
tried,
I'm just
yeah,
looking at you and I see like endless potential. Like I've mentored God like 60, 70 entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs like yourself in the last while, and I see the endless potential. So it's just like as a dad, I'd be gleaming proud, maybe because I'm an entrepreneur of everything you're doing. Have you ever tried to sit down with them and really just like God, almost like a graph and say, this is the potential, this is the opportunity, this is where I'm going to go, this is my goals. Like I could be making financially a lot more money, and it's not even the football. The football is just it's just an avenue, like a vehicle to get me to where I want to get to, right?
yeah. I had a whiteboard a couple months ago, and I'm in the living room, and I scheduled a conversation, and I put out all these different categories. I had school, I had football, I had social media, and I tried to explain the opportunity with each of these categories and also how they all come together.
Yeah,
And it's very difficult when what they had was so different. It was
yeah, of
so
course.
different. And I'm saying it's so different, but I don't even fully understand how different it was, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But so different that when I now sit down and I try and explain certain things to them, there's such a huge gap. I think, especially with how quickly things have evolved, especially in the social media and content
yeah,
creation
yeah,
space, that it's difficult for them to not even like understand it, but even partially understand it. So I think, for example, that conversation did help make some progress
yeah.
in that area, but I have tried it, but it's a difficult one. I actually love to get your input on that because you're a dad, you're like an entrepreneur, so much experience in the space, but it's cool for you because you're in the space, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
kind of
of
see the
course.
for
You have to
for like
realize that I came from a very European family, right? My dad worked at Ford Motors for 30 years on assembly line. I was finishing high school. My mom, I hated school. I just wanted to get out of school. And my mom, I did well in school. So my mom wanted me to be either a doctor or a lawyer. She had that mindset. Till this, do you understand that I'm 45 and my mom every once in a while is like, hey, you're still young. Why don't you go back to school and still try to be like she still says that to me, even though the success I've had, the properties I've had, the business I've had. And my dad had that mindset was like, I'm going to get you into Ford and it's great benefits and great. Back then it was like 30 something bucks an hour, you're getting paid and time and a half. And that was a mindset. And me being an entrepreneur, they never stopped me. They allowed me to do it, but they always had that nest that almost like that backing where they were ready to guide me into that 9 to 5 career, the 9 to 5 job, right? And they always, and so every time I'd be like, I'm going to start a business, they're like, oh, and I started my first business at 17, and then I started at 19. From 19 on, I've been self-employed, right? 27 years. And they always had that mindset where it's like, it's you're gonna fail. You're gonna like they wouldn't say it, but you could sense it. And they always, but over time, they kind of just like, okay, you know what, he's got this. But it took a good 10 years before, that's 10 years of being an entrepreneur before and doing well before they were like, okay, you know what, you got this now. And now they don't question anymore. But it was, I would say after about 10, 12 years, they stopped questioning it. But it was a long process.
Yeah.
And it's that mindset where my parents grew up and I grew up in an age, or I mean, you have to realize I got my first cell phone was like 19. Like we didn't have internet, didn't have anything. So I still grew up in that space where it wasn't social media. It wasn't anything like that. I adapted to it as the business started growing, and I really focused on it. So my parents didn't grow up in it. I didn't grow up in it, but your parents seen you grow up in it. So they should be more adapted to it because it's everywhere you go, social media, right? I mean, I would say the last 2 years of COVID, it forced everybody to adapt technology. They almost sped up technology 10 years because you're at grandmas that would never touch a tablet now on Zoom to interact with their grandkids. So it's sped up everything. So I think it's really making them understand the overall visual of what's going to happen and make them understand that you will fail. I mean, it's just life. There's always ups and downs, right? I mean, you have to have that mindset where wins and losses, if you're stacking up more wins at the end of the day than the losses, you've done well. And that's the way it is. Some businesses are going to do well. I mean, this whole thing with the teams or the athletes, this site, it might be a massive set, it might be a failure, but you have to try it to know. And you have to give that a go, right? And having that mindset. Well, I mean, we'll talk after off the podcast, because I think I have a couple ideas that could help you in that direction. And this is it's a learning curve for everybody, right? So where do you go with football? Like, where is your long-term goals? Like, obviously, you got to this level. Like, how far do you really want to take this?
The goal is to go first division in a country. So I want to go to like the highest league in a country. What I have in my mind right now is I'm here in the UAE. So if I can push for that first division, like the highest league in this country, amazing. I also have on my vision the first league in a mid-tier footballing country in Europe. So like an Austria, a country like that. Because for me, obviously starting at 14 and having missed out on so much development, would it be amazing to go play in the Prem or La Liga? Of course.
Yeah.
But missed out on that development. It makes that goal very, like, so close to impossible. The ambitious side in me still has it. Like, I'm not close to the door. Like, I want to push for that. But I think having like a concrete goal for me is first division in a country right now. So right now, I think I made that step up to the pro level. And now I have a really good opportunity to, in the next 1, 2, 3 years, to then make that final leap up to that first division level.
What about the North American League? God, my head just drew a blank right now. Toronto FC.
MLS?
It's the MLS. Yeah, is that something you would look into?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So when you're looking at that level and that competition, how is it when they're looking as a team, when your team's looking back at an athlete? And I'll come through a baseball mindset. You get a guy that's signs with the team as a free agent. So you got a 22, 23-year-old. He never got drafted, super talented, signs with the team. And he's playing in baseball. It goes single A, double A, triple A, majors. And then before single A, there's independent ball. So you sign with the team as a free agent. You're playing single A, and you're doing you're having a killer season. You make it to double A. You're doing really, really well. But all of a sudden, that team, say you're a catcher, and that team drafts 2 years later, drafts a superstar catcher, and they give him a $5 million signing bonus. All the pressure on that team is to make that kid succeed. So now their attention is with that kid. You could be destroying it in double A and should be get to a triple A, move your way up. They cut you because they have to put that effort into that draft pick. Is it very similar with football? Like, how does that work?
So with football, it's interesting because it also depends on which region you're kind of talking about. In Europe, which is kind of the best football in the world,
Yeah.
you have, for example, the Premier League. What they do is you have these kids who at 8, so early, they already start in these youth academies,
Yeah.
right? And they work them up to 18, where that's when you kind of 16, 17, 18 is where European standards, you need to make that jump into the first team. If you don't, forget your pro career. So if you don't at that point, people will either like kind of stop football or they'll go and play in the lower leagues,
Yeah.
fourth, fifth, seventh division, which there's still some great players in those leagues. But that's kind of the pocket that clubs are looking at in Europe. Whereas the MLS that we were talking about is you have this unique situation where one, they sign players who already have massive experience in the professional world, but then also they have like a draft system. So they have the MLS draft where if you're playing D1 college and you're a very talented player, then they'll select you to come onto the team. And that's a good pathway for you to go to the MLS too. So
Yeah.
it really just depends on which region you're talking about. But with Europe, that pressure at like 16, 17, 18 is crucial. So teams are really banking on those young players
Yeah.
to get them into the, because they want that player to be the next like 20
Superstar.
million, 50 million superstar, right? That they
Yeah.
can then sell on to a different team down the line and make a lot of money.
So at your level, when would be, or if there would be a time to actually hire an agent?
So you should look to hire an agent at 17, 18, I would say is a good age to start looking for one.
So, but I'm
If
talking about
you're,
you right now. Do you have an agent right now?
I don't have an agent right now. I
Would
have a
you would
personal.
you would you look at signing an agent, or you still at this point you feel like you're building enough of a network you could do it on your own?
It's interesting. I think I have a unique case scenario where I have a really like I do have that network where I kind of can get my foot directly into club stores, but I am definitely open to working with an agent because if you're working with the right agent, they can
Yeah, one snap
snap
of a finger and they get you opportunities.
the big move. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. And is that something that's crossed your mind to look for an agent over the last while, or no?
So currently just came kind of signed with the club. The season's going on until April, so I'm really just locked into
How
um,
many games is this season?
the season is 26-ish, 24 games, I think.
Which passes pretty
But
quickly.
it does pass pretty quickly. But what's really cool is we have the World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
And the World Cup, you have all the elite players going to Qatar to play, but most of the team actually doesn't play in the World Cup, so they still have to be training over the
Yeah.
4 weeks. So we're gonna have a cool time frame of some top clubs coming into Dubai to do their training camp, and we're gonna get the chance to have exhibition games with them.
Very cool.
Actual league is like 20 something games, but all those additional games will probably take us to 30 something, which
Yeah.
it's a good volume for a year.
Yeah. And it's just cool too, is you're gonna get a lot more opportunity playing at those games as well, right?
Yeah, your skill is being tested, which is fantastic. So you'll improve, but also you'll have those eyes on you because
Yeah.
those top
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. This has been a ton of fun. I mean, I've been watching your journey, Soheil, for the last 2 years. I love everything you're doing. And it's funny because after we connected the first time when I was on your podcast, something about you, I was like, okay, I like this kid. And and obviously we've somewhat kept in connection, and I love everything you've done. So congrats to all your success, man. Well deserved. Hard work. I mean, it beats anything, and then that's showing what you've done there. All your hard work, all your effort, all your drive, your passion for something is infectious. So I love everything you've done. Congrats on all that. How could our audience follow you, get a hold of you, interact with you? Like, give me all the platforms.
Best place is at soheil.var, Soheil.var on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube. It's Soheil Var. And then you can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat.
Love it. Have you built your own website yet or no?
No.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. I mean, that's the next venture for you as well. Branding, keep the
Yeah,
branding going. I love it. I love it. I
definitely.
love it. Anything you want to leave our audience with?
final message just
Yeah.
comes to mind is whatever goal you have, whatever is the dream, there's something right now inside of you that you can feel it in your heart. It's like the big impact you want to make. It's that big goal that you've always had. I would say just double down on the action that's required to move forward towards that goal or that dream. Because a lot of us like think, we plan, and I think that's amazing and it should be there, but we hesitate to actually take that risk, take that next step forward.
Fear.
So quick action step is try and identify what that next actual physical action step is and schedule in a time today, even if it's a small one, to actually make it happen. Because all you need is momentum. You build momentum, and next thing you know, that big dream, that big goal that you have, which, by the way, has the potential to impact millions and millions of people, they're waiting to be impacted by you, is just you taking that next step forward. So what is that next step? And actually take it forward.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna send you a video once you're done. I did a post about that like a week ago. Exactly. It literally almost word by word what you said. So I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, brother. This has been an absolute ton of fun.
Thanks so much for having me on and also for having this amazing platform, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy.